Hello, my name's Nathaniel Smith, and today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I figure I would go over the MGM film of The Wizard of Oz. Now, before I begin this, let me explain. One, I've read the original book of The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, which I still think is far superior to the MGM movie that everybody knows more over the book. And sadly, almost any attempt to adapt The Wizard of Oz again always links back to that film, the MGM one. So, I figured I'd go over the film and point out that although I can see why people like it and there are some good moments to it, that it's a bit flawed. But before I begin that, I want to explain a few things, just to state them out so you know. First things first, Oz is not a dream. It never was a dream. It never will be a dream. Sorry about that. And yeah, Oz isn't a dream. It never was. The original book never even mentions it being a dream because it was a real place in the books, at least. That's worth mentioning. A couple other things is the shoes are actually silver. The Wicked Witch looks like this. And also, one thing especially important is that although Judy Garland does give a good performance acting as a child, the point is she is a child. An actual child. A young, small child. That's why she can never really be the distinct Dorothy, as everyone says she is. I mean, maybe to the film itself, but not in context to a faithful adaptation of the books. Now that said, I'll review the film without mentioning the books. Well, review it in a sense. I don't necessarily need to review it, per se. What I mean is, I don't know, sort of discussion about it. Its strengths and its not strengths. So, let's start from the beginning. The very beginning of MGM's Wizard of Oz is excellent and classic in most of it, in terms of the film, even if it isn't in faithful in context. In the film, it distinguishes the characters very well. It has a beautiful black and white sequence. As I said, Judy Garland, plays a fine performance. Then there's that opening song. You know the song. Something to do with rainbows. Yeah, that song. So, you know that. And that whole opening bit is fine and really well handled and done. The only thing I want to mention, though, is although we technically know who represents the Tin Man in the real world, he never has any scene to really identify him as the Tin Man. I mean, sure, we have something to identify the actor who will later on portray the Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, the Wicked Witch, the Wizard of Oz, but not the Tin Man when you think about it. Because the Tin Man in sequences never has anything talking about having a heart. Not ever. In the entire sequence, which is kind of interesting in a way that they just sort of skipped him and then emphasized on everyone else. It's weird. Anyways, moving on. So, like I said, the rest of that sequence is fine. You have the beautiful, gorgeous tornado scene, which is well handled. And the whole thing in the window where you see everything passing by, and then the landing of it, and then that beautiful transition to color. And then things take a complete nosedive. I know, everyone's like, you can't say that, but it's true. It takes a complete nosedive because right after that, beautiful transition, it leads to one of the most obnoxious, annoying, and terrible musical sequences ever done. But it's such a great... No, it's not great. The sequence, first off, let me prove my point. One, the songs sung in there, mainly about the dead witch, has no point. It neither propels the plot further or defines character, which is the whole point of a musical. If you have musical numbers, they have to at least do something to propel a character or propel the plot. If it doesn't really do either of these things, there's no point in having it. And literally, this is the case with the Ding Dong the Wicked Witch is Dead number, or even before that. Because all you get is, one, Dorothy singing everything we just saw as if we're brainless and didn't see what we just saw. It's like, we're going to have a song describing what you just saw for like a minute or two. And then on top of that, even though we've already shown you that the Wicked Witch is dead, we've literally shown you this Wicked Witch is dead, we're going to sing a song singing she's dead and have all this drag on for 5 fucking minutes. And then finally it breaks off with the Wicked Witch. Which, by the way, the Wicked Witch does, looks different, as I think I've already mentioned before. Anyways, so yeah, that entire sequence was entirely pointless. And it is. It is entirely pointless. Now, after that, we get Follow the Yellow Brick Road. And we have, Follow the Yellow Brick Road leads into, we're off to see the Wizard, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Now, the reason I want to point this out is because of this. One, these 4 I have 4 hands right here, okay? You see them? I hope. These 4 hands represent every single time that they sing We're Off to See the Wizard, Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Now, these 3 right here represent the time they sing the same theme. They play the same theme music with differently changed lyrics for the different characters of the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and obviously the Cowardly Lion. And they go in between like this. And there is literally no break except on this bottom half here, right in between We're Off to See the Wizard and the Cowardly Lion song. Of lyrics, I should say, because it is the same song, with only a change in dance variation. But the point is, the only thing that they do is have lions and bears and tigers, oh my. And this is like a very mini song in there. But that's the only break we get. So we have literally the same song, in between the same lyric, the same music, soundtrack, theme, whatever you want to go with. And then literally nothing different until the bottom, quarter of it. Yeah. Now, to be fair, I do admit the music for the Cowardly Lion and, the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, they all have distinct lyrics for a point and a reason to define their characters, which is great. The problem is they could have done more with it. They could have had the Scarecrow had some sort of, barnyard, country-esque, farming kind of music to tie it in. They could have had the same tune, but that sort of sound of music. And then with the Tin Man, they should have had something of the theme, or tune as it were, but either metallic or robotic in sound. The only thing we get is really a bit of sound effects when the Tin Man moves, but you take that out, it's still the same theme without anything changed to make it sound, say, more mechanical, which would fit in context better. And then for the Cowardly Lion, I don't know, they should have done a more jungle theme or more forest theme or something like that. Anyways, yeah. Now, I won't say any of that was bad per se. It was decent, I guess. There is one thing I do want to mention, though. The Wicked Witch isn't really much of a threat. I know people are like, but she's so... Not really. I mean, really think about it. What did she do? She popped out of nowhere, scowled around, did some evil talking, and threatened Dorothy, and then she disappeared for a while. She finally revealed herself later on, shot some fire, which would have been threatening if the Scarecrow had not been moving around so comedically, lacking any tension of any kind. Then we have the whole give up Dorothy thing, which doesn't really lead anywhere or do anything. And the poppy field sequence, which is right after, the introduction of all the characters. What was the point of the poppy field sequence? Because all they did was make her fall asleep, and the lion too. They made them fall asleep, only to be woke up suddenly with a magic wand. I mean, I know it's supposed to be like a fantasy or a fairy tale, but it just seems like an anticlimactic way to get out of trouble. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it happens sometimes, but it's just, yeah, I mean, and the way it was done in the book was actually better when they fell asleep in the poppy field because, well, the Queen of the Mice comes in and stuff like that, but never mind, but I don't know. I just thought that was weird. The Emerald City looked pretty good, some of it. Wasn't necessarily faithful to the book, but again, it was a good Emerald City of its own. The one thing I do want to mention though is why do we have that sequence where they clean up? I mean, what was the point of it? It didn't really do anything. It just had a decent song number, I guess, but other than that, didn't propel the story anywhere or define the characters in any way. And then the next sequence is literally, the next sequence I'm going to mention is literally worse. Well, I wouldn't say worse, but it's equally bad as the Munchkin sequence. Because the Munchkin sequence, if you're confused, is why I dislike that one so much in its 5-minute length. It's basically the equivalent of It's a Small World After All. So if you like It's a Small World, you'll like the Munchkin sequence. If you don't like It's a Small World, you will not like that Munchkin sequence. Because it is a lot like that with the cutesy, annoying voices and everything. And again, most of you should all know this. Everyone practically has seen this film at least once. But anyways, back to this other sequence. The Cowardly Lion sings the song about being king, which serves no purpose to the plot whatsoever and could have been cut entirely. Like, it's not a bad sequence, but it doesn't really propel the character further. It doesn't really propel the story further. And on top of that, the sequence is only truly understood if you have read the books. Because in the books, he becomes king of the animals. Yeah, seriously, he does become king of the animals, like chapter 21. So that's why that song was sung. But because they didn't put any context to that for the film, there was no reason for them to have that. Anyways, then we come to the end of the film, and the end of the movie, you know, well, not the end, but the sequence where they have to go get the witch's broom, which everyone points out as, hey, isn't that just a roundabout way to kill the Wicked Witch? Yeah, in the original story, they deliberately just said to kill the witch. And that other witch, the good witch that you see, yeah, she was hardly in the original book and was only at, like, the very end. Don't ask me why they made her such a central figure, they did. Anyways, so you go to the end, you have the castle sequence, which is beautifully done for the most part. The only thing I will say is this, is, why, when they already had Dorothy and her little gang of friends trapped, did they give them a moment to escape, and then they trap themselves again? Like, couldn't they have just done the whole fire sequence when they had them at the gate locked? Because it's essentially, you know, I just don't see why they didn't do that. It doesn't make any sense. I know it sounds mean, but these sequences drag on, and doing a musical is hard, especially for film, and the way you have to do it is to make sure the songs somehow propel the story in some way, or, you know, define character, or is a really damn good song. And with Oz, the only song I can on it with the MGM version of Oz, the only song I think is a really damn good song is Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is the most mature, thought out song they really did in the entire movie. If you look at the other songs, even the ones you remember, Ding Dong the Wicked Witch is Dead, and We're Off to See the Wizard, they're just catchy, happy-go-lucky kind of tunes. Somewhere Over the Rainbow is the only one that has any, you know, deeper context in it, only to a certain extent. Yeah. Now, to be fair, I get why people like it. You know, after all, there is this nice sort of emotional state with, you know, the characters and Dorothy and so forth. You know, with the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. The point I'm trying to get at is this. This film has obvious flaws and is not as great as everyone says it is, and the reason I get so irksome towards this movie isn't that it's bad. It's the fact that this effing film is disguising a greater book set from L. Frank Baum, and there's so much more you could do in the world of Oz. And I'm gonna do another video. I guess I don't know when. We're gonna try and do another video where I have a list. It's not gonna be a big list, mind you, but it'll be a little list. But this list will literally be a list of the best adaptations of The Wizard of Oz, faithful to the actual books in some way. Like, at least admitting Oz is a real place and not a dream. So yeah. It's not as bad a film as I probably have said in the past, but as I pointed out, there's 2 unnecessary sequences that drag this movie out for like 10 minutes or so. And the other sequences, although not bad, it takes a while to really get anywhere or have any threat of danger or something. And the books, they're just more exciting. There's much more fast paced. There's a lot more action. There's darker tones in the books. For crying out loud, there's a whole sequence in the first book of The Wizard of Oz where the Scarecrow has all his straw stuffed out of him. So he's just lying there practically sort of in a dead sense. The Tin Man's somehow completely rusted and can't move. And Dorothy is basically taken by the Wicked Witch and basically sort of slave to her, technically. And the Cowardly Lion is imprisoned in a cage. Yeah. So I'm not saying that the film is bad. I'm just saying it's wrong that this film has overshadowed a greater book series. And it's wrong that there hasn't been a better, more faithful adaptation of the books. Why? I mean, there's a few, but they're so not known and underappreciated. And this film gets blown out of proportion when there's obviously at least 10 minutes of unnecessary footage that drag on, don't do jack shit. Sorry for that. Anyways, yeah. See you later.